How's it going, everybody, and welcome back to Berd Predicts. It's week 2, and I'm kind of happy with my predictions for week 1. I was 9-7, which basically makes me the Tennessee Titans of football predicting. But, anyways, before I get into my week 2 predictions, I kind of wanted to go over a specific game that really shocked me, and that was Bills versus Jets. And I put it as my game of the week in that video, but I didn't really expect for it to be that crazy of a game. And immediately started out with the chaos with Aaron Rodgers being injured, and they later revealed it was an Achilles tear and he's going to be out for the whole season. All of that hype surrounding Aaron Rodgers, and he's out for the whole darn season. Anyway, then, it was a back and forth game. Josh Allen threw a lot of turnovers. Zach Wilson actually didn't look too horrible. I mean, Josh Allen probably had a worse performance than Zach Wilson that day, which is completely shocking to me. But that's the chaos of the NFL. And that final play, oh my God, that final play, Xavier Gibson just taking it all the way into the end zone on a punt return. That was extremely crazy. I did not expect that to happen. But anyway, let's get into my week 2 predictions. I don't want to keep you guys waiting for a while. Let's get into my week 2 predictions. Starting off with the Vikings taking on the Eagles on Thursday Night Football. This is going to be a game to watch. It's not my personal game of the week, but it's definitely going to be a good game. I would put this at my game of the week, but that being said, the Vikings did not have a great performance last week against the Buccaneers, lost 20-17, and I don't know if they're going to get back on the right foot, but for the time being, I'm taking the Philadelphia Eagles, beating the Minnesota Vikings. And yeah, the Eagles didn't do too bad against the Patriots. It was a lot closer than I thought it would be, though. Next up, the Packers taking on the Falcons. Both teams are 1-0. Both teams I predicted to win. And both teams kind of having a little bit of a quarterback situation. Both Jordan Love and Desmond Ridder didn't do too bad in their respective games. They did enough to get the win in the end. But that being said, they are both quarterbacks with a lot left to prove. And the one thing that really shocked me about the Packers was their offense. I mean, besides Aaron Jones, they don't really have any of the remnants of that offense they had like 2 or 3 years ago. But they still did a pretty darn good job against that admittedly weak Bears defense. But they still surprised me. And so on that note, I am going to take the Green Bay Packers. Bijan Robinson did have a good game with the Falcons. They didn't look too bad against Bryce Young and the Panthers, but I'm going to take Green Bay. Next up, the I almost said the Oakland Raiders, the Las Vegas Raiders versus the Buffalo Bills. Now, the Bills, they disappointed me. Josh Allen didn't have a great game. Didn't have the game that we all thought he was going to have. And he ended up with a loss in the end. The Raiders, however, came off of a surprise victory. I thought they were going to lose, but they did end up just barely beating the Broncos. Jimmy Garoppolo doesn't look too bad, but we all know how injury-prone he is. I'm staying very weary on that. And the Bills, they're coming up on their home opener. I think they're going to regroup. I think they're going to take what they had and they're going to improve it, and I think they're going to beat the Raiders. I know I keep on taking the favorites to win, but I'm just imagining the scenarios in my head. So anyways, we have the Ravens taking on the Bengals. Should be a good game. Joe Burrow had a very iffy start. Didn't throw for any touchdowns. And I'll give him credit where credit is due. He had not shown up to practice. I don't think basically for a long while he wasn't in practice, and that was due to his injury. But I think it's going to take a while for him to shake off the rust, and I do think the Ravens will have the slight edge in victory in this game. I think the Ravens are going to beat the Bengals, but that's not to say the Bengals are going to be necessarily bad this season. I just think it's going to take a while for them to really improve. Next up, we have the Seahawks taking on the Lions. The Lions shocked everybody last week. They beat the Chiefs at Arrowhead Stadium, and everyone thought the Chiefs were to be a sure winner, but the Lions went in and beat them, and they're looking like a pretty darn good team. The Seahawks, meanwhile, disappointed everyone. They lost to what people were thinking were going to be the worst team in the league, or maybe the second worst team, which was the which was the Los Angeles Rams. And I don't think Matthew Stafford is as bad as a lot of people think he is. I think he still has a good season left in him. And with that being said, I'm going to take the Lions winning in their home opener. I think the energy is really high for Detroit right now, and I think they're going to beat the Seahawks. Next up, the Colts taking on the Texans, both teams with rookie quarterbacks that lost their first game of the season. Which quarterback did I think did better? I think Anthony Richardson did better than C.J. Stroud, but I do not know the status of Anthony Richardson at this point. I know he got injured at the end of the game. I don't know if he's going to be starting. He might be, he might not. But for safety's sake, I am going to take the Houston Texans. And that's actually going to be my upset of the week. I'm taking the Houston Texans beating the Indianapolis Colts. And right up next is actually going to be my game of the week, the Chiefs versus the Jaguars. This is going to be a very interesting game, and this is mostly due to the fact that I don't think Travis Kelce is going to be playing week 2, and the fact that the Jaguars have been looking pretty darn good against the Indianapolis Colts, and I think I'm going with the one that everyone's expecting to win, but I am going with the Kansas City Chiefs. I know they have no wide receivers right now. Kadarius Toney dropped a ton of passes, and Sky Moore wasn't the receiver that Mahomes wanted him to be, but I am still going with the Kansas City Chiefs. I think that they're going to bounce back. I think that they're going to have a better game, and I think they're going to beat the Jaguars. That is not to say that I don't think the Jaguars are good, but I do think that the Chiefs are going to win it. So next up we have the Chicago Bears versus the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Buccaneers really surprised me. They really surprised me. I thought that Minnesota was going to beat them pretty badly, but they beat the Vikings, and Baker Mayfield didn't look too bad in his first game as a Buccaneer. The Bears, however, looked like absolute garbage, and that's exactly what I predicted to happen. I thought that everyone was riding high on the Bears, but they were not going to perform in week 1, and they certainly did not. So I am going to go with Tampa Bay beating the Chicago Bears. I think Baker Mayfield is going to have a good game, maybe not as good as the one he had last week, but I think he's still going to have a good game. I think that Bucs defense is really going to step up against that Justin Fields-led Chicago offense. Next up, we have the Los Angeles Chargers versus the Tennessee Titans, both teams coming off of a week 1 loss. Both losing in pretty close games, and I do think there's a clear-cut winner here. I do think that the Los Angeles Chargers are going to beat the Tennessee Titans on the road. The Chargers look pretty good, if not for some key mistakes. They would have beaten the Miami Dolphins, but I do think they're going to bounce back and beat the Tennessee Titans. Next up, we have two teams that did not play well in week 1. It's the Giants versus the Cardinals. The Giants especially. I did not expect it to be that bad of a blowout, but the Giants' offense just looked like complete garbage through and through. I did not expect their offense to be that horrid. And their defense wasn't great either. I mean, I don't expect them to have the same performance that they did that game all year, but at the same time, the Cardinals looked better than I thought they'd be. I don't know. You know what? I'll go with New York winning here. I know that might not be the best pick after that train wreck of a game, but I'm still going with the Giants. I don't think the Cardinals are a good team at all. And I think their defense is extremely suspect. Next up, the San Francisco 49ers taking on the Los Angeles Rams. Both teams coming off of a week 1 win. The Niners very, very badly beat my Pittsburgh Steelers. It was a really tough game to watch. A really tough game to watch. And the Niners are looking like legit Super Bowl contenders. Everything looks really solid. Their offense looks great. Their defense looks great. And I do think they're going to beat the Rams. I think they're going to beat the Rams on the road. The Rams had a very, very surprising game against the Seahawks. I didn't think they would be able to do anything against them, but they beat them pretty convincingly. You know, Matthew Stafford had a good game coming off of that injury. And I think the Rams are going to be better than a lot of people predicted them to be. That being said, I do take the 49ers winning this game. Next up, the New York Jets versus the Dallas Cowboys. Oh man. You know, this would be up there for my game of the week if not for Aaron Rodgers tearing his Achilles on Monday night on his, fifth play of the game. And he is out. He is out for the season. That was just awful for Jets fans. I couldn't imagine being a Jets fan at that moment, but the Cowboys coming off of a very convincing blowout against the Giants, and I do believe they are going to beat the New York Jets at home. That injury just brings a tear to my eye, man. That could be Aaron Rodgers' last game. I mean, he's on year 18 of his career, and I don't know if he's going to come back and play football for another season. So I do predict the Cowboys winning against the Jets. Next up, the Washington Commanders versus the Denver Broncos. The Commanders had an alright game. They had an alright game for the beginning of the new owner era. And it seems like Commanders fans have had a newfound sense of hope for the team. Sam Howell didn't perform too badly. He didn't perform too badly. The Broncos, meanwhile, lost a close game to the Las Vegas Raiders, and I don't know if they're going to be very good this year. You know, I expected them to get a win with Sean Payton at the helm. I did see that they tried the onside kick from Super Bowl 44. I think it was Super Bowl 44, where they tried the onside kick. But it did not work out. The Raiders ended up recovering it. Or wait, no, there was a penalty that made the Raiders recover it. Anyway, in this game, I am going to pick the Washington Commanders to beat the Denver Broncos. I do think it's going to be another close game, but I don't think the Broncos are going to beat the Commanders. They might, but I mean, the Commanders did have a very easy opponent to start off the year, but I think they're going to ride that momentum and defeat the Denver Broncos. Next up, Sunday Night Football, the Dolphins versus the Patriots. The Patriots did better than I expected them to, but they still lost against the Philadelphia Eagles. The Dolphins won a very good game against the Los Angeles Chargers, and they ended up winning 36-34. Tua Tagovailoa had a masterclass game, and I do expect them to defeat the Patriots. Next up, the New Orleans Saints versus the Carolina Panthers. The Panthers, Bryce Young's first regular season start ended up in a loss against the Atlanta Falcons, but he didn't look too bad on the field. Still a lot of kinks to work out, but I wouldn't write him off just yet. The Saints, however, won a close game against Tennessee. Derek Carr winning his first starting game against for the New Orleans Saints. And I don't think that they're going to be a terrible team this year, especially in this god-awful conference they call the NFC South. And I do believe they are going to beat the Panthers on the road. And our final matchup is going to be the Cleveland Browns versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. and I am still recovering from the Steelers' performance. That was completely awful, and I do not want them to do that to me ever again. The Browns, meanwhile, had a very good game against the Cincinnati Bengals. Joe Burrow came off of that injury. He did not look like himself at all, just throwing picks and not being able to get any first downs whatsoever. I mean, they only had, what, 6 on the game? It was just a complete train wreck for the Bengals offense, but a great game for the Browns defense. And I am going to take the Browns winning against the Steelers. It's the Steelers. I can't even deal with them right now. I'm still not recovered from that week 1 game against the Niners. But anyways, that is my week 2 NFL predictions. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Yeah, nothing left to say. Hopefully I get these predictions right. Hopefully I get a better record than week 1. I did get a winning record, but I hope to get a better one than last time. Anyway, thank you all for watching, and I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.